From the author of Spinsterella, The Strange and Unusual Romance, and Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black, comes the legendary Magic Children. Pick up the conclusions of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween. This is going to be my final video on this whole Colin Kappernick situation, because what I find when you try to debate and make videos about people like your Colin Kappernick is that many of these Afro-American Negroes cannot debate a point based on logic, facts, and reason. And whenever you present logic, facts, and reason to some of these Afro-American Negroes, they go out of their way to prove the point of David Carroll that says that these Afro-American Negroes, they do not know how to think critically, they do not know how to think logically, and they act on emotion. And whenever they are presented with an argument that they disagree with, they cannot present you with facts to rebut their points. Instead, they go into ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics in the hopes of silencing you for presenting them with points about someone that they disagree with. And I ran into that last Friday in one of my Facebook posts about Colin Kappernick, where I talked about how he was a race hustler trying to run a game on many in the Afro-American Negro community. And two of these pro-black individuals could not rebut my arguments with logical points, so they went into ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics. And when I saw the discussion deteriorating to that point, I decided to agree to disagree and put a period at the end of things. But this whole debate proved a point that, again, that David Carroll talked about regarding how these Afro-American Negro males cannot think critically, they cannot think logically, and they cannot argue a point in a constructive manner. Instead, they act just like their single mothers and go into emotional arguments where they go into ad hominem attacks, deflections, and shaming tactics because they do not know how to argue any point outside of what they were told about things, and that's all they know. And when it comes down to this whole Colin Kappernick situation, most Afro-American Negroes don't want to look at the big picture regarding this guy because many of these Afro-American Negroes are spellbound by this biracial man's creamy white skin and crystal eyes, just like they were spellbound by Jesse Williams and Barack Obama previously. And they saw, because these guys were biracial, they thought they could get attention for themselves by standing behind this individual, showing us all how weak many of these Afro-American Negroes are. Because if this were clearly a case about racism in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick would not have to go into a gimmick to get the attention of the black community and the public at large. He would be able to present his points based on his record as an NFL player, and he would be able to present his argument to NFL owners through his agent. He would not be going outside trying to use some sort of pro-black gimmick to get the black masses behind him. He would be able to argue that he is worth so much based on his performance on the NFL field. And this is the big problem that most Afro-American Negroes don't understand about the NFL. The NFL is about paying for performance. And your Colin Kaepernick's record just didn't measure up. He knew it didn't measure up. This is why he went into this whole pro-black gimmick last year, talking about he was sitting for the national anthem and kneeling for the national anthem, talking about how he was protesting police brutality because he wanted to try to hustle money out of the NFL owners. And he wanted to hustle that money out of the NFL owners by running a race gimmick on the black community, knowing that many of these Afro-American Negroes have no critical thinking skills, they have no idea of logic and reason, and they do not look at a picture critically or behaviors critically. All of a sudden, your Colin Kaepernick, who was dating white women in the past, now is married to a Black Lives Matter female, and now he's pro-black. And he's talking about how he's so concerned about police brutality in the black community, just on the horizon when his contract is just about to be ready for free agency. And during the course of the season, he's doing all these protests in the hopes of building popularity for himself in the hopes of making himself so popular that NFL owners would see him as some sort of valuable asset. Unfortunately, NFL owners were judging him based on his performance on the field, and they were judging him based on the way he played the game. And his approach to the game was one of the reasons why they didn't want to pick him up for their teams. And the other reason why they didn't want to pick him up for his team was because of his behavior on the field, where he was disrupting the play on the field and causing controversy on the field, because his protests were drawing attention to people and they were taking people's minds off the game. So all of his behaviors, yes, they got the attention of a lot of these Afro-American Negroes, but they did not get the attention of the owners in the way that he anticipated. And when he got his free agency, he thought he was going to be able to get another contract. Unfortunately, NFL owners didn't want to give him a contract due to his behavior and his performance on the field. And now he's talking about it's racism when it's not racism. It's the fact that this guy is a mediocre football player and he's just a disruption to the locker room and the team. Because in the NFL, it's about how many games you win, and it's about getting that Lombardi trophy at the end of the day. And this guy was not focused on the Lombardi trophy. So his entire pro-black gimmick backfired on him. And now he's talking about racism in the hopes of shaming people into giving him an NFL contract that he doesn't deserve. If you look at the picture from a critical perspective, you will see that your Colin Kaepernick is in the situation he's in because of what he did. He was the person who came out with this pro-black gimmick. He was the one who came out with this protest. And when you protest, there are consequences for protesting. You are going to lose something. Colin Kaepernick didn't really lose anything. What he was hoping to do was gamble support by gaining the attention of these NFL owners by using the black community as a way to shame them into giving him a contract. And when that backfired, he tried to call racism again. Unfortunately, there was no racism. What it was he was trying to hustle the black community in the same way that Jesse Williams tried to hustle the black community after he got his BET award. After Jesse Williams got his BET award, he tried to use it as a springboard to elevate himself to another level, talking about numerous black issues. And then after he made his speech, he then divorces his black wife, who he was separated from once he got the award, and then gets with a white woman. And then we look at Colin Kaepernick's behavior, and it follows the exact same pattern. Here's a guy who's putting on a pro-black gimmick to elevate himself, to get more money out of the NFL, using the black community as a springboard, and it's not working. And now he's trying to shame these owners into giving him this contract that he doesn't deserve. And the whole sad part about this situation is that most people don't see how the black community is being used as a pawn by these biracial race hustlers. Because these biracial race hustlers, what they do is they use their light skin and their crystal blue eyes or their crystal brown eyes to mesmerize the public into following behind their lead like a lemming. And because black people want the acceptance of white people, and these biracial guys have some white in them, they believe they can get an indirect attention from white people by standing behind this light-skinned person. This is no different than what black people did back in the 40s and the 50s with guys like Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and many other light-skinned and biracial people. They would use them as a springboard to elevate themselves to a higher level and to get the attention of white people. And your Colin Kaepernick is no different in that regard. You have these Negroes who are getting emotional, talking about it's a race issue, when it's not a race issue, it's just a race hustle. And the sad part is the Afro-American Negro can't see how he's being used on the chessboard like a pawn by these biracial race hustlers to get themselves ahead at their own expense. If your Colin Kaepernick was so concerned about the black community, he would understand that one of the ways you stop police brutality is through building economic power. Because with economic power, you get political power. Donating money to a nonprofit does not build political power in a black community. Creating black-owned businesses in the black community is how you build a political base in the black community. But you can't tell this to the Afro-American Negro, because every time these biracial race hustlers come out here with their creamy white skin and their crystal eyes and some donations that they give to a nonprofit, they look at the surface of these guys' behavior, but they never dig deep enough to look at the character of these individuals. And this is how your Afro-American Negro, in most cases, winds up getting race hustled, because he can't see that in order to deal with these issues in the black community, you need to have an economic base to make political change. And without things like black-owned businesses in your community, you can't make any sort of change that is constructive. Because if you have black-owned businesses in your community, you can make changes to things like your police departments, because you have a political base to deal with this issue. You have people who will be able to deal with city councilmen or get city councilmen elected, people who will be able to get mayors elected, people who will be able to get recruitment done in police departments, people who will be able to create programs for community policing. That's not something that is done on a nonprofit level. That is something that business does for a community, because economic power is how you get political power. But you can't tell that to the pro-black, back to Africa, red, black, and green Negro. For him, he's thinking that if you're out here making marches and protests, you're actually doing something, when at the end of the day, when you do a march and a protest, all you're left with is a sore throat and tired feet. And it's really backwards for you to go out here and march and protest for a guy like Colin Kappernick, because you're getting a sore throat and tired feet to support a millionaire who was trying to get money out of billionaires. And that's completely insane when you really think about it, because for us to go out and spend our time marching and protesting for a guy who has millions of dollars and has not opened one single black-owned business in his community, that's ridiculous when you think about it. Donating money to a nonprofit is nothing that helps the black community, because I know about nonprofits, I worked at them, and once you give them money and it's just given to their general operating budget, that money can be spent any which way that nonprofit wishes to spend it. And most of that money, a lot of times, will get lost in the administrative costs. So all that money that they're spending is just going in and out, and it's just being spent on whatever they want to spend it on. And it can be spent on anything from raises to promotions, and nothing is going to go help the community. If you really want to help the black community, these guys would be doing like the old school NFL players used to do, in opening up fast food restaurants, opening up auto dealerships, opening up all sorts of businesses where black people have jobs. Because when black people have jobs, you have economic power, you have an economic base, you have a tax base, and you have money staying in your community from these football players. And that's how you get solutions to problems. Unfortunately, your Colin Kaepernick isn't about solutions. He's just about a gimmick to get the attention of NFL owners while using black people as pawns. And the sad part is, most of these Afro-American Negroes don't see how this guy is using them to get rich at their own expense. Because at the end of the day, your Colin Kaepernick will have tried to shame people into getting him a contract, but that's not going to bring any jobs to their community, and that's not going to improve the quality of life in the black community. And all the black people are just being used as pawns, and all they're thinking about things is based on emotion, and that emotion is why they aren't going anywhere, because they're feeling about things instead of taking the time to think critically about them. That's all I have to say for this video. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you'd like to try some of my books, you can go to Amazon.com and click the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.